Imagine waking up to find your homeland under a barrage of over 300 missiles and drones launched from multiple countries. This was the chilling reality for Iran recently. In a significant display of aggression, Israel led the assault, coordinating efforts with partners in multiple locations. This unprecedented offensive sent shockwaves through the region, instigating a state of emergency as the Iranian Defense Forces scrambled into action. The skies were ablaze with the trails of incoming missiles and drones, a terrifying spectacle that could only be met with swift and decisive action. Iran's advanced defense systems were put to the ultimate test as they intercepted the majority of these threats, ensuring the safety of their citizens. Yet, despite the success of their defense, the damage had been done. The echoes of this audacious attack reverberated around the world. Iranian officials made it clear that such aggression would not be left unanswered. In the face of such aggression, Iran's defenses stood firm. As the sky was blanketed with the menacing forms of more than 300 missiles and drones, the Iranian Defense Forces leapt into action. Their quick response and strategic prowess resulted in the successful interception of the majority of these imminent threats. This was a testament to their resolve, their preparedness, and their firm commitment to defend their land. The Iranian defense system, an intricate missile defense mechanism, once again proved its effectiveness by transforming a potentially catastrophic event into a display of defensive power. Like a shield forged amidst unyielding challenges, it passed the test, protecting the citizens from the aerial assault. While the successful defense was a victory in its own right, it only told one side of the story. Other side was the looming question of a proactive response. Iran had made it clear that such aggression would not be left unanswered. Intercepting missiles is a reactionary defense. The question now was, how would Iran proactively respond? The battlefield extends beyond the terrain, reaching into the diplomatic corridors. Israel, in response to a serious act of aggression, took immediate action, not just through military means, but diplomatically. Harnessing the power of its alliances, Israel called upon its partners to impose sanctions against the threatening missile program. This call to action reverberated in the chambers of power around the world. The United States, a long-standing ally of Israel, responded assertively. The U.S. administration under President Biden expressed its intention to enforce further sanctions. This is a definitive message from the world's leading democracy, a message that belligerents will not be overlooked. Across the Atlantic, the European Union also indicated its intent to act. The EU, a coalition of 27 diverse nations, stood against the act of aggression. They too announced their intentions to implement additional sanctions. This exemplifies the strength of diplomacy, where nations unite, speaking in unison against hostility. This diplomatic reaction is vital. It is a reminder that warfare is not solely about firepower, it's also about strategic diplomatic moves. It's about nations merging their collective economic and political power to react to hostility. The responses from the US and the EU are not only about punishing the aggressor, they're about broadcasting a clear message to the world, a message that belligerents will be confronted and nations will collectively uphold peace and security. This diplomatic battlefield, however, is intricately complex. It involves managing alliances, balancing economic interests, and steering through political realities. It's a delicate dance with far-reaching implications. But even amidst this complexity, the message remains clear. The world is watching, and the world is responding, not merely with military strength, but with diplomatic force. The consequences of this act of aggression are equally about leveraging diplomacy as they are about flexing military might. Sanctions have long been a tool of diplomacy and conflict resolution. They serve as a non-violent method of expressing disapproval and enforcing international law. Throughout history, one can find several instances where the United Nations or individual countries have sanctions against certain nations due to perceived violations. There are instances when these sanctions expired, yet some countries decided to maintain them, asserting their stance. This move is a clear indication of disapproval of the actions of the targeted nation and an intention to curb certain programs or activities. the potential for additional sanctions always looms on the horizon. Economic powerhouses like the United States, the European Union, and the United Kingdom have often discussed the possibility of further sanctions. These could target significant sources of revenue for the country in question, such as export goods. Furthermore, sanctions might be designed to focus on support for proxy groups, which are often involved in regional conflicts. However, it's important to remember that while sanctions can serve as a strong deterrent, they can also escalate tensions. The economy of the targeted nation can become strained, and further sanctions, particularly those targeting key exports, could exacerbate the situation. This might push the targeted nation to become more aggressive, leading to an escalation in conflicts. Moreover, sanctions can also have unintended consequences. They can inadvertently harm the civilian population more than the government. This can lead to resentment among the populace, potentially fueling more conflict in the long run. Sanctions are a double-edged sword. They can deter aggression, but they can also escalate tension. As we continue to explore the complexities of this situation, it's crucial to remember the delicate balance between maintaining international law and preventing further escalation of conflicts. While diplomats negotiate, military strategists plan. After a recent attack, Israel's war cabinet has been engrossed in a complex debate, considering various options for a response. Their challenge is to craft a response that is robust enough to deter future aggression, yet measured enough to avoid escalating the situation into a full-scale conflict. This is a delicate balance to strike, a high-stakes chess game of military strategy where the pieces are real lives and the board is the volatile landscape of the Middle East. Each move is calculated with precision, with the understanding that the wrong decision could trigger a domino effect of repercussions, altering the regional balance of power and potentially sparking a larger conflict. The stakes are high, and the decisions made now could shape the future of the region. This isn't just a regional conflict, it's a global concern. The reverberations from the recent attack echoed far beyond the immediate geographical area, drawing the attention of world leaders from all corners of the globe. From the corridors of power in the G7 nations, the call for restraint and diplomacy was loud and clear. Leaders from these influential countries emphasized the importance of avoiding a knee-jerk reaction that could potentially escalate the situation. The rhetoric was simple yet profound: negotiation over retaliation, diplomacy over destruction, but the situation is not without its complexities. One such complexity is the deepening strategic partnership between a major Eastern power and a key player in the Middle East. This development has been viewed with concern by many, as it threatens to alter the balance of power in the region. The provision of advanced military technology and collaboration on weapons development could potentially embolden one party, posing a significant challenge to the international community. Meanwhile, the European Union has been contemplating its own response. The EU, known for its advocacy of peaceful resolutions, is considering expanding sanctions against the weapons program of the involved party. This move, while signaling the EU's disapproval of the actions, also underscores their commitment to resolving the issue without resorting to military action. The global community finds itself in a delicate dance of diplomacy, with each step carrying the weight of potential conflict. Or the stakes are high, and the decisions made in the coming days and weeks could shape the future of the Middle East and indeed the world. The world watches, waits, and hopes for a peaceful resolution. So, what's the current scenario? We've navigated through the intricate labyrinth of a recent attack on Israel that sent shockwaves across the global political landscape. This incident, involving over 300 missiles and drones, marked a significant escalation in aggression. At the same time, Israel's successful interception of the majority of incoming threats highlighted its resilience. In the aftermath of this event, Israel called upon its allies to impose sanctions on the missile program responsible for the attack. The US and the EU signaled their interest in implementing further sanctions, while existing UN sanctions related to the same missile program expired last October. Yet, some countries kept their sanctions in place and even broadened them. The Israeli War Cabinet, meanwhile, pondered on potential response measures, aiming to deter future aggression without escalating into full-scale conflict. The US, backing Israel's defense, highlighted the need for restraint to prevent further escalation. A sentiment echoed by the European. A recent development has been the deepening alliance between Russia and Iran, which could potentially alter the regional balance of power. Amidst this turmoil, world leaders, including the G7, underscored the importance of restraint and diplomacy. As we steer through these turbulent times, one thing is clear: the decisions made today will establish the world of tomorrow.